Hello, everybody. My name is Captain Nitin Joshi. I am a behavior transformation coach and a leadership development partner. Today, I'm going to tell you about resume making. I will tell you about how to design a successful resume, the things that you need to look out for while designing your resume, why a good resume matters. I will also be sharing a few good resume templates with you, which you can all use while designing your resume. So, what exactly is a resume? In brief, a resume is your professional profile. It's a small document that tells about your professional qualifications, your experience, your capabilities. In short, it talks about what makes you a candidate most suitable for the job. Keep in mind that even before you physically appear before the interviewer or the selector, it is your resume that represents you. You are presenting yourself in the form of a resume before you actually walk into that room of interview. Keep this in mind. There are some things that you need to keep in mind while designing a resume because, based on the resume, the interviewer or the selector will already form an image about you before they see you. Make sure you create a good image about yourself. So, how to create a good resume? Let's see. Let me just start by sharing my screen. So, as I said, your resume says a lot about you. Okay, it determines whether or not you will be called in for an interview. This is especially true in case you are going for an interview into a company office. Okay, for every vacancy that they advertise, they get hundreds of resumes, and they have to sift through these resumes to see which candidate to invite for the interview and which candidate to not invite for the interview. And this is where a good, well designed, and a thought out resume will make the difference between being called for the interview and not being called for the interview. If you have not made your resume already, please make it. Also, keep in mind that whatever resume you create is a basic document. Don't just create one resume and keep sending it out to everyone across the board. Okay, your basic document, you need to keep amending it, you need to keep changing it as per the requirements of the particular job or the position that you are applying for. Now, what are the different types of resumes? Well, first and foremost, there is a chronological resume. The chronological resume is a resume in which all the information is given in chronological order. Chronological order, as you must be well aware, is the order in which things happen. Okay, whatever happened first, whatever happens second comes second, and so on and so forth. Most of the time in resumes, especially when you are mentioning your work or your education qualification, you are supposed to follow the reverse chronology. That is to say, whatever education you are pursuing right now should be there on the top and in reverse order. For example, pursuing final year of engineering from so and so college, before after that, third year of engineering, whatever percentage you got, second year of engineering, whatever percentage you got, first year of engineering, and so on and so forth till class 10th. You don't have to go below class 10th. Then there is a functional resume. These are the kinds of resumes which highlight the specific experience relevant to the job or the function being applied for. This can be done by underlining or by highlighting or by making bold the particular words or the phrases which bring out this experience or this qualification. Next, of course, is a combination. By combination, I mean a resume which is chronological and a resume that also highlights the functional aspects. In most of the cases, if you are a fresher, a student applying for your first job, your resume should be a combination resume. That is to say, information on your education and your internship given in reverse chronology, and all the functional aspects highlighted to bring out that you are the most suitable candidate for this particular job. Then, of course, comes infographics resume. That is just a way of decorating the resume. I will show you exactly what it is like when I share some resume formats with you. Then there is a resume with profile. What is a resume with profile? A resume with profile is basically a resume in which a short few line profile or a paragraph of a profile of the candidate is given. It is a summary of the entire resume. It is a summary about the candidate, which is given in the beginning. So it gives the interviewer, or it gives the selector, an idea about what exactly the candidate is all about before going into the complete resume. Now, in most of the cases, this kind of a resume is not required if you are a fresher. This kind of a resume is normally required for very senior posts where the work experience and resume is very big, and it's a good idea to have a profile at the top for the selectors to know. Then, of course, there is a targeted resume, a resume that is targeted for a specific, very, very specific job position. Again, may not be very applicable to candidates or freshers, students or freshers. Non-traditional or creative resumes in which a lot of design is used, resumes in which a lot of color is used, resumes in which a lot of creative ideas are used. But generally, I would not recommend this kind of a resume for freshers. This kind of resume should be used only if you are applying for a job that requires you to be creative, like maybe a graphic designer or a fashion designer, or a job that requires you to bring out your creative side. And then, of course, mini resume, it is nothing but an extract of your resume, which talks either only about your education qualification, or maybe it talks only about your work experience, something specific that the selectors might have asked for. But let me reiterate, in case you are a student or a fresher, the resumes most relevant for you will be a combination resume in which information will be given in a chronological order or in a reverse chronological order, and you need to highlight, okay, those aspects of your experience and your qualification which you feel make you the most suited for that particular job. So before sending out your resume, do a little bit of a research on what exactly the job description is that you're applying for. Do a little bit of research on what are the kind of skills and functions required for that particular job. And if you have a particular qualification or an experience, or if you have done a project, or if you have done any kind of internship which matches with that, make sure that you highlight it, because that will increase your chances of being called in for an interview. Now, what is the information that you need to include in your resume? Okay, some of the information, very obvious. Your name, you need to identify yourself. Of course, that goes without saying, right? Then comes your education qualification. Now, when I talk about your name, let me reiterate that your name that you include in your resume should only be your official name that appears in all your official documents. Okay, your name that appears in your class 10 certificate, and your name that appears in all your official documents. Please do not include your pet name or the names that your friends have given you in a paragraph or something. Believe me, there are people who do this. It is not at all required and looks unprofessional. Your education, of course, as I said, from whatever you are currently pursuing down to class 10th. No need to go to what you were doing before class 10th. Okay, so from whatever you are pursuing right now to class 10th in reverse chronology. Ideally, include the name of the institution or the university from where you did or are doing the course. Okay, the class, the year of passing, and what percentages you got. More than that is not required. Your continuing education, whatever you are pursuing, technical as well as non-technical, that is to say, of course, if you're an engineering student, then you're engineering. If you're an MBA student, then you're MBA, and so on and so forth. But along with that, if you're also pursuing some sort of a part-time education, like you're doing some online courses, or you're maybe attending a college on the weekends, if it is relevant to your professional profile, if it is something that adds to the profile or the job description that you are applying for, please add it. Then comes your work or professional experience. Okay, in case you're a fresher, your work experience will mostly mean your internship. But in case you have been working somewhere part time and it is in the same industry or in the same field of work as you are applying for, please include that. Now, talking about work or professional experience, don't just mention that I was working in so and so company, or I have done my internship in so and so place. Give at least 2 to 3 lines about what exactly you did there. The nature of work, the kind of projects that you had to undertake, the nature of work that you had to do. Okay, or what was the kind of experience that you gained over there. Not in a very, very elaborate fashion, but at least 2 to 3 lines, so that they know what it is that you took away from that experience or that internship. Okay, and it also highlights how you are well suited or well qualified for a particular job position. Then, of course, comes your professional associations. Now, many of us might be members of some or the other professional association. Okay, there is association of doctors, there is association of engineers, there might be association of CAs, there might be association of IT professionals. If you're a member of such an association, you might like to add it. Okay, but again, only and only if it is relevant to your particular job profile. Okay, so make sure that you add this, and also in what capacity are you associated with it. At the same time, be ready to answer the questions about how this association is helping you professionally to grow and learn. If you are not very sure about it, then you would like to drop this particular piece of information. Then, of course, comes your contact information, your address. Okay. In case of multiple addresses, use the current contact address. Okay. Use the address on which you can be contacted, the address on which you are staying. So, because many companies they like to send hard copies of their offer letters to you, so it should be available to you. Now, in case you're staying in a hostel, or in case you're staying all alone, or in case you feel that whenever the letter comes, you may not be around. Okay, then give the address in which your family is available, so that at least they can inform you that a letter has arrived. Then, of course, comes the contact numbers. Okay, so for landline phones, always use the area codes. Do not assume that they will know the area code for a certain place. So, contact numbers, and please provide the area code for landline numbers. Also, in case of mobiles, please provide an alternative number, because when they call, you might be in an area where your particular network is not very good. So they should be able to leave a message somewhere. Okay. Then, of course, comes an email ID. Have a very, very professional sounding email ID for your resume. Okay. See, most of the time in your resume, your email ID will be your personal email ID. The best is to have your name underscore surname, or your name dot date of birth, something like that. Okay. At the rate maybe yahoo.com or gmail.com or something like that. Okay. Don't use some very, very fancy sounding, email IDs like, for example, something like a jumping jack at gmail.com or something like that. You might use it for your personal correspondence with your friends and family, but an email ID that looks like this does not really give a very, very professional kind of an impression of the person using it. So please avoid such email IDs. Okay. If you have any website, again, only if it reflects your professional skills. Okay. So some of you might be pursuing a certain hobby, some of you might be doing something else in your free time, some of you might have some other likes. If you have a website about that, it is not really necessary to include that. Okay, because you wouldn't want them to go through a website that is not really adding to your professional profile. But if it is something that reflects your professional skills, okay, in case you have a website like that, please include that. Here, let me add one piece of information. In case you have a LinkedIn profile, which you are expected to have, because nowadays, it's a very professional thing. It's a very professional kind of a network. So you need to have a LinkedIn profile. So in case you have a LinkedIn profile, make sure that the LinkedIn profile is updated, and all the information that you have included in the LinkedIn profile matches with the information given in your resume. Please keep this in mind, and please be very particular about it, because nowadays recruiters they check these things. They check your social media, especially your LinkedIn, and if they find any discrepancy in the information that is there in your resume and your LinkedIn profile, it might go against you. So please make sure that you update everything before sending it out. Okay, update your LinkedIn profile. Again, a profile that is not updated, okay, so is not a very good thing. Okay, if your Facebook profile, or your maybe any other Twitter profile is not updated, or Instagram profile is not updated, it may not have much of an impact. But LinkedIn is a professional network. Okay? So if you keep your profile updated on that, it shows that yes, you are very particular about these things, keeping your profile updated. An unupdated profile does not really speak very well for you. If relevant, you might add computer skills. Now let me warn you over here, and I'm saying this because I get to see many resumes, and that's why based on that I'm telling you this. Word, PowerPoint, and Excel are no longer special skills. Okay, in the early 2000s, when these softwares and these applications were very new, and not many people knew them, and knowing them was something very special, you could include that. Nowadays, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel are something that we use every day. Everyone is expected to know these things by default. Okay, so don't include that. I have special skills, computer skills, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. They are not special skills anymore. It is something like television having a remote. Okay, there was a time when televisions were only black and white and had no remote control. When remote controls were introduced for televisions, it was a novelty. It was something very unique. People were even ready to pay extra to have a TV with a remote control. Nowadays, if somebody says that, when you go to buy a TV, if somebody says that you will have to pay extra for a remote control, you will immediately walk out of that shop. Okay. A TV having a remote control is not a great thing. Not having a remote control is a big hindrance. The same thing goes for these skills, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. Every one of you is expected to use them every day and know them by default. So don't include them as your special skills. So what are computer skills? I'm sorry, computer skills. Computer special skills are something like if you are a coder, okay, or if you are able to develop some special kind of a software, okay. These would be computer special skills. They would count as special skills in computer. Please keep in mind the word special. Okay, the computer skill should be truly and uniquely special. Then of course comes your volunteer experience. Okay, if you have volunteered somewhere in some sort of a work, in some sort of a social work, you might like to include that. Okay, uh, I would say even if it is not really relevant to your professional profile, include that because it shows that you are also doing work outside of your professional realm. Okay, it shows that you have an all-rounded personality. Then, of course, co-curricular and extracurricular activities that you have done in your school and college days, especially if you have excelled in something, if you have gone on to state or national level, please add that. It shows your competitive side. It shows that you're a skilled person. It shows that, yes, you are an all-rounded personality. So please include that. However, again, let me tell you, please be ready to answer questions about it. Okay, especially if you have done something where you have gone up to maybe state or national level in some kind of a competition. Okay, and if it is something that you're still pursuing as your hobby or your part-time, then please be ready to answer questions about it. You cannot be putting something there on the resume and not being able to answer questions about it. Okay, that I took part in dramatics and we went up to the state, but what was the drama? I don't remember. What role did you play? I don't remember correctly. Okay, doesn't speak very well for you. Same thing applies to your hobbies. Okay, all of us have a hobby. Okay, certain hobby. Some of us like to read, some of us like to cook, some of us like to go for treks, and so on and so forth. Please include your hobbies. Okay, whatever one or two hobbies that you have on your resume, but please do not include a long list of hobbies just to impress them. Just to create a good impression. I see so many resumes in which students deliberately include a long list of hobbies, five, six, or seven hobbies. But when you start asking them questions about it, they are not able to answer. Okay, so please don't do such a thing. Have only maybe one or two hobby, but you should be able to answer questions about it because after all, it is your hobby. After all, it is something that you do because you like. Okay, so make sure of that. Okay. Keep in mind that anything and everything that you include on your resume, you can be asked questions about. Okay, so before putting anything over there, be prepared with what questions can they ask you about it and what is the best answer that I can give. If you are not sure about something, please don't include that. If you have picked up some hobby very new, okay, if you have picked up some hobby very recently and you don't know a lot about it, please do not include that as your hobby. Because what happens is if they ask you a question about something and you're not able to give them a very clear answer about it, then they start looking at you with doubt. Okay, so keep this thing in mind at all times that whatever you put on your resume, you can and you will be asked questions about it. So be ready with the answers. If you're not sure about something, you would like to drop it from your resume. Just remember that thing. Okay, these things are optional. Objective. Now Again, many of the resumes that I see, they start off with an objective, and it is usually a big paragraph with 3 or 4 lines. Okay. Now, what happens is many students, when they are making their resume, they do a cut and paste job, right? They just pick up everything from the other person's resume. They just change their name and a few other things. They keep the objective as the same. You ask them what their objective is, and they don't remember. Okay. So your objective, if you're putting an objective on the resume, okay, aims and objective, if you're putting that in the very beginning of the resume, it should be a very, very simple one liner. If you're a fresher, your objective should be getting into a company where you get a chance to learn and grow. If you're a person with a few years of experience, then your objective should be further professional growth, okay, or diversification in your skills, something like that. But just keep your objective very, very simple and short. Okay, your objective in a resume is something like, what exactly are you looking to do in your professional realm? Why are you looking for a job? What do you want to do professionally? Something as simple as, I would like to get a job in a company which gives me a chance to learn and grow and also to contribute fruitfully to the company. That is a very simple objective, easy to remember, and that actually is your objective right now. So please keep that in mind. Okay, and that exactly is what your objective should talk about. Okay, please do not have something very, very elaborate, saying that I want to change the world and I want to revolutionize the field of engineering or whatever. I mean, these kind of things normally you will not remember, and they might start asking you questions about how you want to go about it, and then you'll be in a fix. If you're not very sure about it, please drop it. Please do not put an objective. Okay, then comes your special skills and abilities. Okay, if you have some special skill and ability, like you're very good with numbers, or you have some kind of a creative talent, or maybe if you're very, very good with understanding of machines or something like that, you would like to include that, especially if it enhances your professional profile and it's a skill that is very, very required in your industry or your field of work. You would like to include that. Then comes your strengths and weaknesses. Okay, you can put in what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Again, whenever you put in your strengths and weaknesses, okay, be ready to answer questions about them. If you say that your strength is your communication skill, be ready to answer about when your communication skills were put to a good use. If you say that your strength is leadership, be ready to talk about when you have been a good leader, okay, and where have you displayed your leadership skills. Similarly, when it comes to weaknesses, okay, you would like to, they might ask you, what exactly are you doing about your weaknesses? How you are overcoming your weaknesses? Okay, then you have to tell them something that is believable, something that is good. Okay, uh, a word of warning here: don't put any weakness that might put them off. Some people have a weakness that they are short-tempered. Some people have a weakness that they don't like working with others. Please do not put any such weakness that will immediately take you off the market wherever you go for an interview. However, generally, I advise you to avoid mentioning your strengths and weaknesses in your resume. Why? Because it makes your resume unnecessarily long. Also, there is a very important interview question that is asked: tell me something about yourself. Now, when you're asked a question, tell me something about yourself, you should be able to tell them things that are not mentioned in your resume. Simply rattling off and repeating everything that is there in the resume is no point. They have already read your resume, it is there in front of them. So keep your strengths and weaknesses to answer a question like this. In that case, you can talk about your strengths, and when they were put to good use, you can talk about weaknesses and what you're doing to overcome them. And you can talk about your special abilities that make you a better candidate than all the others for that particular job opening. Okay, please avoid these things. All right. Now, again, in many of the resumes that I see, okay, in the end, there is a declaration, the kind of declaration that you see only on, you expect to see only on a legal document, a declaration that says that it is hereby declared that the information given above is true to the best of my knowledge. Now, you don't need to include such a declaration in your resume. It is not a legal document. It is not something that you're going to present in a court or a legal case. Okay. Of course, you're supposed to be truthful, but you really don't need a declaration over there. Again, it is adding unnecessarily to the length of your resume. Please get rid of that. Many people have a habit of writing a place and a date at the bottom of their resume. Okay, the date on which the resume was made and the place at which it was made. Now, there might be many other documents like an agreement or some kind of an affidavit where a place and date would be required. Your resume doesn't really need a place or a date. I mean, think of it. What is the relevance of place and date in your resume? Hmm? So please take it off. Do not include a photograph unless it has been asked for. Okay. Most of the time, when companies ask for your resume, they ask your resume and photograph separately. Of course, if they have mentioned that they want a resume with photograph, you would definitely want to include it, right? Then there is a reference statement. Okay, many resumes in the end they have a line called excellent references will be provided on request. That statement is not required. Of course, if requested, you are going to provide a reference. You don't need to mention that. Many people also have a habit of writing one or two names, as a reference in the end of their resume. What for? If the company wants a reference from you, they will ask for it. And do not include anybody's name as a reference in your resume or anywhere else unless you have first taken the consent of that person. Okay, that person should know that you have included their name as a reference in your resume. It should not suddenly come as a surprise to them. You know that one fine day they get a phone call from somewhere that so and so person has given your name as a reference. So avoid putting this statement in your resume. These things are to be avoided. As I said, not necessarily, not relevant. They add to the length of your resume without without really contributing anything. So what are the essential elements of a successful resume? As I said, it focuses on the skills applied for. Okay. Let me repeat, do not just create one resume and keep sending it out everywhere whenever you need to send it. Your resume should be a basic document. Whenever you're sending it anywhere, make sure that you modify it to suit the requirement of the particular position that you are applying for. Okay. That includes highlighting, underlining, or maybe adding a few lines that add to your profile and make you more suitable for that particular job. Okay. Use action words. Now, when I say use action words, what do I mean? By action words, I mean if you have done an internship somewhere, okay, and if you have learned a particular skill, so say that I learned a new skill, or in my particular work, we achieved, let's say, 50% saving on electricity, okay, or we created some new project, or we created some new prototype. These are action words that talk about what you were a part of and what did you do. So I learned, I achieved a saving, I created, I made, I designed as a part of this. It talks about what you have done. And then, as usual, as I said, it has to be 100% truthful and be ready to answer questions about it. But action words will definitely tell a lot about what exactly it is that you can do. Okay. Easy to read and understand, very, very self explanatory. Whenever we appear for class 10th or class 12th exams, we are told one thing, that the person who's going to check your paper has to check hundreds of papers. So if you make it difficult for them to read your paper, you're going to lose out, right? That is exactly the same thing as it applies for your resume. Your resume is also, you can consider it a kind of your answer sheet. Okay. And as I said, people who are doing selections or interviews, they will first read your resume and create an image about you. If you make it difficult for you to read, then they are going to make the interview experience very, very difficult for you. Okay. So please keep this thing in mind. It should be easy to read and understand. Do not use paragraphs, use bullet points. Okay. Whenever you're talking about your work experience, your internship experience, you're talking about what you did in a co-curricular activity, or how maybe you designed a particular project, use bullet points. They are easy to read, easy to understand, rather than using paragraphs. Okay, so please make it easy to read and understand. A page, okay, normally in your case, a resume will not be more than 1 or 2 pages long. So make sure that your page is not very, very cluttered with words and information. Okay, it should be easy to read and understand. Next time you come across any document, any resume, or any other document of this sort, just look at it and ask yourself that, if I have to read this kind of a document, hundreds of them, with a shortage of time, is this particular layout making it easy for me to read and understand? Okay, if no, then avoid that. Of course, it should be visually powerful and free of gimmicks. When I say gimmicks, please don't need to include multicolored border outlinings. Okay, no need to include any kind of a picture of God or some kind of religious salutation. These things are not required on a resume. Okay, and they are gimmicks. They unnecessarily draw away the attention of a person from the main content of the resume. One page or at the most 2 pages long, especially in case you are a fresher. Your resume should be 1 or 2 pages long. So, as I said, create a basic document and then make sure that you keep modifying it, changing it as per the requirements of that particular job. So, when you're doing that, you might feel that some piece of information is not really relevant to this particular vacancy. You may like to knock it off. Okay, you may like to get rid of it. So keep that in mind. A successful resume should be 1 page or at the most 2 pages long, not more than that. Language has to be grammatically correct. Nowadays, we have a lot of online tools, online softwares that help you to check the grammar in your resume. Please make sure that you use those softwares, use a dictionary if required. Language has to be grammatically correct. Okay. Uh, See, the way you create your document, the way you create your resume tells a lot about how you conduct yourself. Okay, those people who are conducting the interview or the selectors, they don't know you personally. They have a very limited window, a time window in which they have to see you and judge you and assess you for the suitability for that position. This includes reading your resume and this includes taking your interview. Now, a person who writes a document, a simple basic 2 page document with spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, now put yourself into their shoes. Obviously, they will not like it. Okay, so check for the grammar. Don't be in a hurry to keep sending your resume everywhere. Every time you modify it, every time you add something, every time you remove something from it, make sure you check for the spellings, make sure you check for the grammar. Extremely important. Okay, again, as I said, spellings have to be checked. It should be in a very formal style. Okay, a formal neat layout. I will explain that to you a little bit more when I share some resume templates with you as we go ahead shortly. Okay, but keep these things in mind. 100% truthful. Okay, I cannot emphasize this more. It has to be 100% truthful. Why? Because everything that you include on your resume, you can be asked a question about it. Do not keep putting things in there just to impress the selectors. Okay, it has to be 100% truthful. It has to have complete authentic information. You cannot put anything on the resume that is not truthful, because even if in 1 or 2 questions they ask you and it comes out that you're not telling the truth, okay, if you hesitate, it will show in your body language, and that is a very big, a big point against you. So make sure that your resume is 100% truthful. Anything that you're not sure about, please don't include it. Whatever you want to include, ask yourself what questions can be asked to me about this. Be ready with the answers. No inappropriate personal information. I mean, you don't really need any personal information in there. Okay, now what is the only personal information? Your name, your address, and your contact details. That's it. Okay. Even many people like to include their family information in resumes, like who all is there at home. Not really relevant. Not really relevant. What do the selectors have got to do with, who all is at home? They may ask you if they need to know. They may ask you in the interview. Okay, it has to be produced on a computer. Again, goes without saying, there was a time long back when computers were not there, and even typewriters were rare. People had to handwrite a resume. That's Those times are long gone. Even the times of typing something are long gone. It has to be produced on a computer with a neat layout, a very formal style. Okay, Arial and Calibri are the best fonts for a formal document. Okay, with a neat and a formal style, and printed out on a good paper. And of course, as I have said, data in chronological order or in reverse chronological order. That is how your data should be presented. Okay, a basic checklist. Now again, once you have created your resume, make sure that you check it or you scrutinize it against this basic checklist, not only when you have made it once, but also when you are sending it out to anyone. Okay, the moment you start sending it out, before you send it out, don't be in a hurry to send it out. Check these things. There should be no spelling or grammar errors. Spellings, absolutely no. Of course, if you're creating the document on Word application, then there is going to be a spell check. Anything that is incorrectly spelled will have a red underline. But always good thing to keep a dictionary handy, or you can always use an online dictionary, or take help from Google to know the exact spellings. But there is no excuse for getting spellings wrong. And grammar. Okay, so again, as I've said, there are many applications nowadays, online applications and software which help you to check the grammar. Please make use of them. It has to be neat, clean, and professional looking. So by neat, I mean not only neat laid out, but even the quality of paper that you use to get a printout, okay, will say a lot about you. Okay, so neatly printed, neatly kept, so that when you finally forward it, see, mostly you will be using only a soft copy. Okay, but you will be required to carry a hard copy with you when you go for the actual interview. Okay, you are expected to have your resume and other documents with you, even if you have shared the soft copy. Okay, and professional looking, neat, clean, and professional looking, because the way you treat your documents will be taken as the way you treat your work and the way you treat all the other things. Length should be 1 or 2 pages, not more than that, especially as a fresher. You don't have to have a very long resume, 1 or 2 pages long. Anything that is not really relevant, or you feel it's adding too much of a weight to the resume, please get rid of it. There should be margins at side and bottom. Okay, so when you're writing, preferably your text should be justified or left aligned, not in the middle. Justified is the best, but make sure that you keep margins on the side and bottom. You may or may not make a margin line, just one thin margin line, but keep a margin at the side, at the bottom, and the bottoms, because it looks good, and also because when they are doing your interview, the selectors might like to add some small notes on your resume. That is the reason you need to have these margins. Okay, and the layout has to make it easy to read. Again, as I said, use bullet points, avoid paragraphs. Okay, use bullet points, makes it easier to read everything and to understand it. Okay, important titles or important things, as I said, some of the things you will need to highlight. Okay, like some of the things regarding your internship or your work experience, or maybe some of the things about your qualifications, you might need to, or you might like to highlight it. Okay, so use fonts and styles, bold, italics, or underlines, but don't use more than two different styles in one resume. Okay, one single document, if there is something that is being made bold, something italicized, something underlined, again it looks quite hodgepodge, looks quite odd. So if you're if you're making things bold, then keep it bold. If you're making things in italics, to highlight them, keep them like that. If you're keeping things underlined to highlight them, keep it like that. Don't have a lot of different styles in in your resume. Okay, and again, chronologically recorded, no hodgepodge, no breaking of chronology. Bullet points wherever required. Okay, again, highlighting your work experience or internship experience, or highlighting a certain project that you did. Bullet points. And quantify the results wherever you can. By quantify, I mean give a number. Okay, give a number, put a percentage saying that, okay, I improved my academic performance by so many percent, or we, as I gave you an earlier example, we achieved 50% savings on energy, or we were able to enhance the capacity of the machine by so many percent, just to give you an example. So wherever you can, quantify the results. Numbers always impress people. Okay, so it tells very specifically about what you have done or not done. So quantify your results whenever you can. Okay, whenever you can. Very important, as I said, that you will need to carry your documents when you go for the interview. Okay, you might be expected to give them a copy of your resume when you, of course, they will have it, but you still need to carry it with you. So paper and print quality has to be very good. Make sure that you have at least 2 to 3 sets of your resumes with all the other supporting documents ready before the interview. Don't do a last minute job. Don't take a print just before you go in for the interview. Because if it so happens that at that very time the printer has run out of ink or the toner, you will have, one page that is nice and good looking, nice printout, and the second page which is dull and looking smudgy. So that really looks bad. Okay, so have a good resume printout, okay, on a good quality paper, along with the supporting documents. Supporting documents would basically mean your education qualification certificates, your maybe any other professional certificate that you may have gone, which you would like to include. Okay, so all these sets, printouts or copies of them on neat, good looking, fine paper quality, ready. Carry them in a good file. Again, don't please, don't carry the entire bunch in your hands. Invest in a good file or a good folder. Please carry them in that. Okay, looks neat, looks good. And also your resume and the documents, they stay neat and clean. No last minute jobs. I've already mentioned it before. Please avoid any last minute job. Please do not, be the kind of person who will take a printout just 10 minutes before you walk in. Very, very unprofessional looking. And, if you're lucky, you will get away with it. But sometimes, if at that very moment, at that very time, if they have run out of the toner or the ink, you're in trouble. Okay. And I'm telling you this because I have seen such things being done. I have seen such, people doing such a job, and it's not really very good. It doesn't really convey a very, very good image or an impression about the person doing it. So please avoid. Okay, if you are mailing the resume, please send a proper name to the file. Okay, see, for you it is resume. You might have saved your resume on your desktop as a file name resume, but please understand, the people who are receiving it, they are getting hundreds of resumes. So for them, if they keep getting such attachments as resume, 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 okay, and you expect them to save your resume with your name, that's very unrealistic. So please say, for example, resume Nitin Joshi, or resume whatever your name is. So when they download your resume, they know that, okay, this is a resume of so and so person. So please use a proper file name. Okay, just don't uh, say that, new Microsoft Word document and send it, or just resume and send it. What resume? Whose resume? They're not going to keep looking at every resume and correcting the file name for you. That is not their work. Okay, so don't increase their work. Use a proper file name if mailing the resume. What is a scannable resume? A scannable resume, many companies, they ask for a resume in which they use a particular software to scan the resume or to scan the document for some keywords. Okay, so do you really need it? Have they asked for a scannable resume? If they have asked for a scannable resume, then please make sure that it's in plain Word document with 1 or 2 pages. Okay, uh, do a thorough research and read their advertisement very clearly. This is to say, if they have asked for a scannable resume. Okay, so read the job description and the advertisement very carefully. In that itself, you will find the keywords that you need to include in your scannable resume. So please include them and send a scannable resume only if asked for. Okay, plain Word document, again 1 or 2 pages only. No need to have an unnecessarily long resume just to impress people. It doesn't usually work. Okay, so plain Word document, 1 or 2 pages only, and of course margins on tops and sides makes it easier for the resume to be scanned. Simple font like Arial. I have always said this, Arial is the best font for the resume. Arial or Calibri, these are the most formal looking fonts. And while we are at fonts, let me tell you one thing: in one resume, use only one font. Okay, in one resume, use only one font. You don't have to use different fonts or different sections. That you include your education qualification in one font, then you include your work experience in the other another font, and your hobbies in a third font. It doesn't really look good. Okay. Also, not more than two font sizes in the entire resume. Okay, so one single font for the entire resume and not more than two font sizes. The best is to have a font size between 12 and 14. So maybe you can use size 14 for your headings and 12 for the the subheadings, or whatever is the material in that under that heading. Okay, use bullet points and avoid paragraphs. Again, makes it easier to read, makes it easier to scan. Whether it's a scannable resume or a non-scannable resume, use bullet points, avoid paragraphs. Paragraphs will make it difficult for them to read, and your chances of being called up might go for a toss. Okay, remove hyperlinks, not really required in a scannable resume, or you can have it in your resume that you are posting, but scannable resume again not required. Avoid tables, lines, underlines, and italics. This is for scannable resume, and avoid watermarks. But in most of the cases, I don't think you will require a scannable resume. Okay, but just in case. Okay. Now, what exactly is a covering letter? A covering letter is, as the name suggests, a letter that is supposed to be sent out with your resume. Okay. Uh, what happens is many of the companies they advertise a certain job position or a certain opening, and you are expected to send a covering letter. Okay, which basically says that you are sending this particular resume and the other documents in response to a certain advertisement or a certain opening that you have heard of. Okay, it's like introducing your resume. So address it to a specific person. Okay, now again, many emails or many letters that people write, and when they don't know who exactly it is that they are addressing it to, they send it with dear sir oblique ma'am. Now this is not very good. Okay, it is like you're sending it or to whomsoever it is applicable. This is not very good. In most of the cases, you will be able to find out who exactly it is that you're writing it to. Find out the name of the person and please include the name of the specific person. It becomes personalized, becomes good. Okay, it becomes like the other person who receives it feels good, feels respected. So avoid dear sir oblique ma'am. Address it to a specific person. Okay, mention the designation and address of the addressee. Also make sure that you get the name correct, correctly spelled. So okay, and mention the post being applied for. Like for example, okay, dear Mr. Mehta, HR head of, let's say, Tata. Okay, this is with reference to your advertisement on your website, dated uh, 3rd of June 2021, for a position of data analyst, for example. Okay, or you know, dear Miss Singh, HR head of, let's say, Infosys. Okay, I am forwarding my resume in response to your advertisement in, let's say, Times of India, dated 4th of June, for the position of, um, well, a mechanical engineer, for that, for example. Okay, this is just an example. So this is what you should write a covering letter like, address to a specific person. Okay, make sure you get that person's name correct. Okay, mention the designation and address of the addressee, and mention the post that you're applying for and in return to which advertisement, because companies, see, if they're coming to your campus for recruitment, it's a different thing. But if you're applying in response to their advertisements, then companies, they advertise several different posts on several different platforms at the same time. So they should know that your resume is being sent, with reference to which advertisement. If you're, I would say, if you're mailing the resume, then your covering letter can be a part of the body of the mail that you're sending. Okay, saying that, you know, let's say, dear Mr. Kumar, HR head, so and so company, I'm forwarding my resume as in response to your advertisement on your website dated 1st of June 2021 for for a position of, well, a coder, for example. Okay, so that covering letter can be part of the body of the mail that you sent, right? Mention all the attachments. So if this is, as a part of email, then please mention that I am attaching my following documents here with: number one, resume; number two, certificates; number three, your work experience certificate. Or if you're making a bunch and taking the hard copies, then your covering letter has to be at the top, followed by your attachments in the same order in which they are mentioned in the covering letter, and also mention what you're currently doing. Okay, so that is as far as making a successful resume is concerned. Now, please keep these points in mind, and let me reiterate that your resume is something that will increase the chances of you being called in for a job. Okay, it is the first impression. Make sure that you create a good one. Now let me share some resume templates with you. Some templates of a good resume which you might like to use whenever you're designing your own resume. Okay, so Yes, here you see on the screen in front of you, these are some templates of resumes, okay, which are uh, neat, good looking, and they really serve the purpose. So if you see this, the entire information is covered in one single page. Okay, your on the left hand side is your address, the phone, the contact information basically. Below that is your skills, so your computer skills. You might also like to include your hobbies over here, one or two hobbies. A profile not really required in case you are a fresher, okay, but so please avoid that. Okay. Starting off then with your education qualification in reverse chronology and the other history. It will become more clear when I share some more templates with you. Okay, like for example, this one, this is how the resume of most of you will look if you are a fresher. So you can use this. See, let me tell you, there is no one internationally accepted standard or correct or incorrect format for a resume. The whole thing that you need to remember, the term of reference should be very simple, that your resume should be easy to read and easy to understand. Whatever template you use is irrelevant. It should be easy for the other person to read and understand. Do not put in gimmicks and multicolored resumes just for the sake of making it look good. Your bottom line has always to be how easy it is for the other person to read and understand. Somebody is going to read it, how easy it is for them to read and understand. So this, what you see in the screen in front of you, is a very good template. Okay, on the top header you have the name and the contact details. Then you start with education qualifications, reverse chronology, whatever you're doing presently, down to the reverse. Again, many people like to include a table for their education qualifications. Many people include it without a table. Not really important. How easy it is to read and understand. Okay. Here you see one more resume template. Uh, Again, a very well-made resume template. Two different colors, blue and white. Okay, so don't again use too many colors. Just use stick to black if you're not very sure about it. And then a small two-line, or two or three-line profile again as a refresher, not really important for you. And the personal information is on the right side, contact information, skills, and hobbies or softwares. Okay, and with the other information given here. Okay, you can do that. Again, one and the same thing, a single page photograph, as I said, not really required unless specifically asked for. Okay, no need to put in a photograph just for the sake of it. Okay, just because it is there. Here you see they are using symbols. Okay, so instead of saying phone number, it's a phone icon that has been used. Instead of saying email, it is the a mail icon that is being used. Location icon for city, LinkedIn icon. You can do this, looks good, but make sure that these things, if not done properly, they can go wrong, and instead of looking neat and clean, they might end up spoiling the look of your resume. So use this only with discretion. Okay, please use this only with discretion. This is just a template. Profile again may not be applicable for you as a fresher, because profile, as I said, is when a person has a very vast work experience and they need to add a summary of what they are. That is when the profile comes up in the beginning. You can straight away start with your personal information on the left hand side, and your education qualifications. Down below will come your your it will be your internship or work experience, followed by your projects and your extracurricular activities. This is a very creative resume. This is for a person who is applying for a job that is very creative field. May have applied for a job in some field that requires designing, or some kind of graphic designing or software designing kind of a job, where the designing skills are highlighted in the resume. Use this kind of a thing, or use this kind of a format only and only if applicable. Okay, only and only if applicable. Otherwise, not don't take the risk. Again, one and the same thing, a very creative kind of a resume to be used only if applicable. And I think two more formats, but I think as a fresher, the first three formats, this one, and this one, would be the safest for you. So stick to these three. Okay, stick to these three. These are the best formats. They look good, they look clean. You can include all your information in one page. If you don't want to include all the information in one page, then the information on the right hand side, starting with your education qualification and your work or internship experience, can come on your first page, and all this other information can come on the second page. Okay, you can do that, but if you can include all this in one page, looks neat, then please go ahead with it. Okay, so this one, the second one, and the third one, these are what I will really recommend for you if you are a fresher. Okay, so yeah. So to sum it up, students, before you go for the interview and during the interview, your resume is the most important document that you have. It is your professional profile, a summary of what you are professionally. Please treat it with respect. Please treat it with care. When the person is reading your resume, okay, how you have treated your resume will be judged as how you will treat your work. Okay, let me again reiterate, those people who are conducting the interview, the selectors, they don't know you. They have nothing against you. They are just there to see your suitability for a job. Okay, and the way you treat your documents, including and especially your resume, will make them think that you're going to treat your work in the same way. Okay? So remember these points that I have told you, and please apply them. Make a neat and a clean resume, and wish you all the best for your interview and your selection process. Thank you very much.